Braveheart Workshops presenting Moments of Hope, Health, and Healing in 2021. I'm Jill Reynolds, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Cassandra Dr. K. Brown from Texas. Welcome to the show, Dr. K.
Hey, Jill, I love how you say that. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. I love you. Tilted Fedora Trainer, Dr. K.
Yes, ma'am.
And we are going live under a recording, and we'll stream this later on so you can keep watching it over and over. And Dr. K, we love coming on and talking about different moments of hope, health, and healing. And last week when we came on, you said, Jill, I've got a special topic I want to share, so I'm going to let you lead the way on hope, health, and healing tonight.
Jill, this is one I got from a very new movie that has recently come out. I love kids' movies. I love cartoons. I love animation. And in this movie, there is a little scene. It involves two little boys. One of them is an adventurer, and the other one is very, very not adventurous, very, very safe, very not a risk taker at all. And they meet up, they become friends, and the risk taker tries to convince the non-risk taker to take a risk. And the little boy starts to talk about all the reasons that it could go wrong. We can do this, we can do this. And the risk taker says, Silencio, Bruno. Silencio, Bruno. And that got my attention. And he says, Bruno? Who's Bruno? He says, Bruno is that voice in your head that tells you all the things you can't do. And you have to tell him to be quiet. So throughout the movie, every time they wanted to do something that was a risk or crazy or off the deep end, something they'd never tried before, and the little boy who's the non-risk taker would start to go, but this, the other one would go, Silencio, Bruno. Silencio, Bruno. And then they would do it and they'd have a ball. It would work. It would be crazy. At the end, they would laugh. And the one that was the non-risk taker learned that by silencing those negative voices, he was able to enjoy all of the positive experiences in his life that he had been missing out on. He got out of that box by silencing that committee that tells you what you can't do.
I love that, Dr. K, because, you know, I cannot even begin to tell you the non-risk taking marketing people out there who have said to me, you're doing a live conference? Do you realize no one's going to come? And I went, what? And I'm like, Silencio Bruno. Like, what? You're telling me what? And the negativity blows my mind away. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell everyone tonight, everyone go online and get a ticket tonight to the Hope, Health, and Healing Conference. And if you can't come to Branson for whatever reason, because I think you should come because it's gorgeous here, I want to challenge everyone that hears this show tonight to buy a $28 ticket to come to the virtual conference so that we can Silencio Bruno, the negative marketers out there who don't believe anything's possible right now in this country, and they've gone into this state of hopelessness. Yes. And feeling like nothing can be done. And I'm not going there, Dr. K. I am not going to go in there because, in my opinion, COVID, like the flu, like pneumonia, like AIDS, like cancer, like heart attacks, could be here for the rest of our life till the day we all die and go to heaven. And so what are we going to do? Are we going to keep saying, we can't do this? We can't do that? Are we going to keep saying that for the rest of our lives?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you wholeheartedly. At some point, we have to accept that there are things that happen in life that we don't like. Death is one of them. Yeah. And there's always a cause of death, even if it's natural. There is a cause of death, and everybody's going to experience it. So we haven't avoided it. I don't know what anybody thinks, but those people who were going to die, they died. And I don't want to sound callous. I hate to sound callous, but I teach and preach truth. Here is truth. We're going to die eventually. when we look at the statistics, the people who passed away of COVID were predominantly, super predominantly, older and sicker. And I think COVID for some of them might have been a blessing, like Katrina was a blessing for people in New Orleans. They wanted to get out of there and didn't know how. Katrina came along. There were some older people who, and I've met older people who were like, you know what, I'm ready to go. I can't figure out why I keep waking up.
Well, and look
COVID might have helped them out.
I'm saddened, and look at the poor people in Florida that were sleeping in the night in their condo crashes.
And their condo crashes. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. Look at my sister, 68 years old, happy and joyful, and just started not feeling good. Finds out she's got stage 4 pancreatic cancer last year, and she had 12 weeks to live, and boom, she was gone. So,
wow.
I mean,
wow.
Look at me. I went to O'Hare Airport in September of 2011 on a rainy night to pick up my sister coming back from Colorado. Got out of my car door, opened my back door, leaned inside to help her pull a suitcase, only to be struck by a vehicle driving 30 miles an hour who took their eye off the road, and they struck my open car door at 30 miles an hour to throw my body to the left and fracture 2 knees, a hip, and my spine to leave me permanently disabled.
Wow.
And all I was doing on a rainy night is picking my sister up at the airport and trying to get a suitcase in. And thus it left me completely disabled for the rest of my life, And so am I going to sit around till the day I die and feel sorry for myself and say, oh my gosh, I can no longer do this, and this. And every night I go to bed in pain, but I'm going to wake up every morning having hope, health, and healing, and I am not going to be a victim.
And this is another one we can talk about the next time we get together, but it's celebrating what you can do rather than lamenting what you can't. But I want to get back to Silencio Bruno.
Yes, Silencio, because Silencio is saying, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to move forward.
I'm going to tell those voices what I loved about it is I listened to it now. What the first thing he did was he gave the voices a name. They were no longer, he gave them an identity separate from himself by calling them Bruno. So now he understood that those negative voices weren't the core of who he was or is as a person. Those negative voices, that's not who you are. That's stuff you picked up along the way. That's stuff you got in childhood from loving relatives who didn't want you to get hurt. So every time you tried to do something, they said, don't, be careful. When you tried to learn to ride a bike, it was, are you ready to take your training wheels off yet? Rather than the one saying, take off those training wheels and you got this, you can do it. You've picked up that negative information on a job where you tried to do something and it didn't work the first time you tried. And some other snide person made a snarky comment. You picked up that negative voice when you fell in love for the first time and it didn't work out. And instead of just walking away quietly, like the old dramatic song, Let's Just Kiss and Say Goodbye, that person told you you were rotten, mean, and to the core. Nobody could ever love you. And those messages, they got stuck in there on a loop.
And when you say that, it's how many times do we, with our own family members or loved ones, say something that's a negative connotation, and we don't even realize the loop we're going into. And I'm going to give an example. I'll give an example. A child falls down, and you say to them, oh, let me give you a cookie so you'll feel better. Okay, why is the cookie become the fixer of the child who's crying that fell down? Or you're eating a meal and the child doesn't say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and you then start to label the child as a picky eater. Well, again, risk-taking, the words. And so the child then looks at you and says, am I a picky eater? And I say to the child back, no, you're not a picky eater, you're a good eater. And the child goes, really, I'm a good eater? And I go, yep. And then the child eats their whole plate. So one person says this, another person says this, and how do you form hope, health, and healing in that person? Well, you change the wording around and say, no, that's not who you are. You're not a pig, And I started noticing this, Dr. K, that I can't remember where I read it, some school or lab was putting under a microscope these children's masks and looking at the mask to see what kind of germs were in there. The germs were so serious, like staph and strep and all these germs that were growing inside these children's masks, because there's very few parents, I don't believe there's a lot of them, who remember to change or throw away the mask and then their kids wear them again. And then they're breathing in all this, and I witnessed some kids, going like this with their mouth and wondering what that is, and they said, "I'm trying to get rid of my germs." Well, what you're trying to get? Yeah, because I might have germs around my mouth, so I got to get rid of them, because they're wearing this mask, and they're so afraid of germs now.
And they're putting the germs back into their mouth.
Exactly. And so I'm sharing that because it goes back to the Silence Bruno. It's like, what is that? Oh, that's germs. That's called, instead of Bruno, that's mighty germ. Let's get rid of it. Or mighty pickiness. And so we start saying these things, and the kids start to pick them up. Mm-hmm. And no wonder people are starting. I talked to someone the other day that said they've never in their entire life had a panic attack, and they've been having panic attacks lately.
Wow.
Because we're just utilizing wording of complete disastrous fear.
Yeah. And we have literally been overwhelmed by something that should not have overwhelmed us. Mm-mm. And we've been told, and here's the deal, we've been told over and over again that we should be afraid. We've been told over and over again if you don't get it, you can still give it to somebody else. You don't want to give it to your grandmother and have her die. You don't want to give it to your great uncle and have him die. You don't want, and it's just gotten crazy. It's just gotten crazy. I've asked a couple of people what will make you feel comfortable to take your mask off? At what point will we need to have 70% vaccinated, 80% vaccinated, 100% back? At what point will you be comfortable? And some people have admitted never. I don't think I'll ever be comfortable again without a mask.
Because they're so filled with fear.
Okay, so now we're talking bondage. Now we're talking bondage. Mm-hmm. If you're going to freak out because you don't have on a mask, or because you're in the presence of someone without a mask, when there are germs in the air everywhere, like you mentioned with the kids' mask, we have staph germs around us all the time. There's bacteria we're breathing in. God created us with a marvelous immune system that is designed to attack foreign items in the body, and it does you don't know how hard your immune system is working. And the only time you get sick is when something gets by. And generally your body, it battles the first time. By the second time, it knows how to deal with it. And it responds instantaneously. That's why you get something one time, you don't get it again, because the next time your body encounters it, it's ready. Same with Silence Bruno. As you start to silence those voices when they come up, you begin to recognize them and silence them. You get better and better at hearing the voice and telling the voice to be quiet. So by the end of the movie, the little boy who is the non-risk taker has to take the biggest risk of the movie. It's the climax. He has to take the biggest risk, and he's there in position, and he starts and he says, "Silencio Bruno," and he takes off. And I just go, wow, he got it. He becomes the victor for the day. He wins it, and everybody rejoices. And he finds out that he had it in him all along. Mm-hmm. That all of those great escapades, all those things that you want to do, all those ideas that you have, the ability to accomplish them is already in you. You wouldn't have them if it weren't there. God made you with those. He put those in you particularly on purpose, with intention. And now you have to live those things out. And in order to do it, you're going to need to silence Bruno. So give those voices a name, and then tell that name to be quiet and move forward. I want to take it one step further, if you don't mind, Dr. K, in an even more loving, and not that what you said isn't loving, so I don't want to make, in a more gracious way, okay? And this is where I think this comes in. I feel like those voices, sometimes the voices or the burdens, whatever you want to call them, that come into our lives,
come in for a purpose, sometimes even to keep us alive, even though they seem so, so negative. And so I want to take it a step further, Dr. K. And when those voices come in, why not quietly invite them to go to something that's your favorite place? Like I love creating my own private island because I love beaches. I love sand and I love beaches. Beaches and sand comfort me. So what would it be like to have this beautiful beach that is your private beach? You just won the lotto and you got a private beach, and you line up the beach with the most comfortable lawn chairs you've ever seen, with sun umbrellas and beach pails on the sand and suntan lotion and some refreshing cool water and a nice book. And when those voices come in, those Bruno voices, like, you're not good enough, there's no way that you can do this, you say to that voice, instead of saying silence it, you say, so not good enough, Bruno. I see that you're coming in to try to, share this with me. Would you like to go to the beach and play in the sand? Because, at this moment, I'm going to ask you to unblend for me and go to the beach. Because, sometimes I think, Dr. K, some of those voices are protectors. They come in. Some of them come in and protect us. And I'll give this as an example. Sometimes we might overeat a meal because we had a stressful circumstance that hit us. Does that mean that overeating is this like horrific thing that we want to say, silent? But you can say, you want to go to the beach and chill, and if I need you again, I might come to the beach and ask for help. So I think sometimes these voices, these are the voices, these are the lies that come in, but sometimes they come in and out of us, and then we actually become overly critical of them. And then when they don't go away, we become even more overcritical. So they go in a whirlwind.
See, I would separate those are two different voices.
Okay.
The Bruno voice is the one that stops you from accomplishing goals and doing good. And that's why you've got to stop. That's why you've got to silence him. Classic Bruno voice. Friend of mine owns a business back in Massachusetts. She was on a radio show where she was talking to entrepreneurs, and one lady called in and said she wanted to open a coffee shop in a particular area of town that was not known for coffee shops. If you went to that area of town, you wouldn't expect to find a Starbucks or a signature coffee shop. And she said, she was putting together the money, putting together the business plan, but every time she mentioned it to somebody, they would say, that won't work. That'll never, why would you do it there? And they would give her all of the negative. And the woman who was counseling her said, how many coffee shops have they opened? How many coffee shops have they opened in that neighborhood? She said, so why are you letting people who have never done this thing before tell you what you can't do? Mm-hmm. Talk to the people who've done it and ask them how they did it. And she said, I bet you, because people in that neighborhood drink coffee. Yeah. You'll find out that you can do it. Those are the voices we want to silence. The ones that you're talking about, and there are protective voices. Those are the ones that keep us from doing those things that we know will harm us. Mm-hmm. That voice that says, don't cut yourself. Don't slit your wrist. Don't overeat. That says, you've had enough, now stop. Those voices we need to keep. There are protective voices. The voices we want to silence, though, are those ones that would stop us from reaching a worthy goal.
Worthy goal. Okay, that's good to clarify that. That's good. So
writing that voice that tells you can't write a book, that's the Bruno you want to silence.
Yes, because you can't.
That voice that tells you you're too old to learn how to play the piano, that's the voice you want to silence. That voice that tells you, you can't go volunteer at this place because they don't want somebody. And it typically happens. I'm on the backside of 50. I'll admit it. I'm on the backside of 50. And as I'm getting on this other side of the lower part of the hill, I'm learning the things that my body can't do that it used to be able to do. And again, I can't lament what my body can't do. I have to celebrate what it still can.
Yep.
I can still walk. I still go up and down stairs. I still get out of bed under my own power. So I celebrate those things. And rather than say, well, you can't go You can't go play with the kids in the daycare because if you get down on the ground, you can't get back up. Well, that voice needs to be silent because I can still go to the daycare, sit down on a chair, and read a book.
Yeah.
And the daycare
you can roll over on your fours like a dog and say, "Would someone give me a hand and help me up?"
Last time I did that, my 3-year-old nephew jumped on my back and said, "Giddy up." We don't do that anymore.
That's great. I love
now we
that
just
one.
we just don't get on the floor. We've just learned. But those are the Bruno voices. So think about that worthy goal that you thought about attempting, you thought about trying to do. And the voices that tell you you can't do it, you're not good enough, it'll never work for whatever reasons, those are the voices you silence. And sometimes those voices are not just internal, sometimes they're external. Mm-hmm. Some of us have negative Nellies in our lives. And we need to tell negative Nelly, silencio.
Silencio. I like that. Silencio.
You got to tell the negative Nellies, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. If it doesn't work, I can't say that I didn't try.
So let's do this.
I have learned that when you try,
yes.
you quite often you'll succeed.
So let's do the Silencio Bruno. For those of you who say, "Oh, I can't go to Branson because I can't travel yet because of COVID," and I'm like, okay. Like, yes, you can. Like, there's fresh air here. Believe it or not, I was in the swimming pool yesterday, Dr. K, for 2 hours doing kickboxing. I can barely stand up, but in the water, I can kickbox. I was doing push-ups in the water, getting my push-ups in. And
great exercise.
Yeah. And, and there are people in the pool from Indiana, from Missouri, from Oklahoma. People are coming to Branson, and we're having fun. And, of course, the mainstream media wants to say, "Oh, Missouri's a hot spot." No. You know what? We got people traveling, so big deal. It's, people can come and set free. I've talked to someone recently, and I'm trying to remember who it was, who actually works in a hospital, has been vaccinated, wears their mask 70% of the time, and just got COVID. So, you're going to get vaccinated, you're going to wear masks, you're going to stay in the house, and you're never going to live again. Or are you going to just step out in faith and start enjoying life again?
It's bondage. It is bondage. And that's what it's being pushed to, is we're going to keep you in bondage, keep you under control, and you'll move when we say you move, you'll do what we say you'll do, and you won't live. And you'll be even more miserable because we were created to be in community.
Yep. So come to Branson and experience moments of hope, health, and healing, August 20th to 22nd. And we're just going to have an amazing time. We've reduced the price as low as we can to general admission, $48 for 3 days, $38 for veterans and seniors and groups. And if for some reason you can't travel because of financial reasons, don't tell me you can't travel because of COVID, but unless you want to stay in bondage, then that's your choice. But if you live somewhere too far away, you can see the event virtually for $28. So go online and register now and come to Branson. And I'm going to play a little marketing video as we turn out. In the video, it's going to say a different price because we switched the price and I can't change the marketing video. But, watch this and register now at braveheartworkshops.com. Thanks so much, Dr. K, for talking about silencing Bruno. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks for joining Moments of Hope, Health, and Healing. Bye now.
Braveheart Workshops presents the Hope, Health, Healing live conference for men and women at the King's Castle Theater in Branson, Missouri, August 20th to the 22nd, 2021. Has the pandemic left you feeling isolated while in quarantine? A sense of despair and hopelessness? Yearning for connection and growth, faced with emotional struggles? A reduced mental wellness and joy, where life has seemed hopeless, where health has been hindered, where depression has affected mental health. The Hope, Health, and Healing Conference provides and enhances a safe and welcoming environment. Growth and grace with God, praise and worship as you listen to speakers' stories, sharing about adversity, pain, and suffering, and never giving up on their dreams. And as you connect the dots of their stories with your own story, look for the similarities in each story instead of the differences. See how their stories weave and bring transformation in your life. Gather in community, receive communion, invite Jesus into your life. Allow your soul to soar and realize you are never alone. Meet the speakers, relax and have fun in the sun. Enjoy entertainment and shows. Connect with nature, God, self, and others. God's faithfulness teaches us not to strive, but to thrive in hope, health, healing. In 2021, join us in Branson, Missouri on August 20th to the 22nd, 2021 at the Live Conference for Men and Women at the King's Castle Theater. Register now. Tickets for this 3-day event are only $84. Be inspired by these amazing speakers. Thank you to all the sponsors. Go now to braveheartworkshops.com.